So in this session we are going to see detailed account of arm region that is present between the shoulder joint and the elbow joint. So here we will be having a joint called shoulder joint, and here we will be having elbow joint, and between that we will be getting one region which we will call as arm region. In anatomically we will call this arm region as brachium also. And about this arm region, it is a very simple region, and it will be having around 4 muscles present in this region along with some nerves and vessels submerged inside these muscles. So submerged bounded by this muscles, and then this muscles again will be taking origin from upper bones and getting inserted into the lower bones. Before going into the details about muscles, vessels and nerves of this region, first thing you have to remember is this region is also covered by skin, superficial fascia and deep fascia. Later, removing these 3 layers, we will get into a part called muscular area. And before going to this muscular part, we are going to see details about deep fascia first. So the deep fascia which is covering this arm region will be called as brachial fascia. This brachial fascia, what it will do is, it is going to give 2 intermuscular septums. So those intermuscular septum will be termed as medial intermuscular septum and lateral intermuscular septum, which is extension from the deep fascia, that is brachial fascia. These 2 septums are going to divide the arm region into 2 compartments, that is anterior and posterior compartment. So as I said, we have medial and lateral intermuscular septum which is going to give a transverse sheath between 2 compartments of arm region. Thus we got anterior and posterior compartments of arm region. So now you can make out anterior compartment. So the region which you are seeing here is anterior compartment. So in this anterior compartment, first muscle what you are seeing is biceps brachii. So this is a muscle which we will call as biceps brachii because it will be having 2 heads. So origin is happening for this muscle by means of 2 heads. So we are calling as biceps. Seps means head. Bi means 2. So by 2 heads it is taking origin. So we are calling as biceps, and it is present in the brachial region. So we are calling with a name called brachii. So biceps brachii, it is a muscle seen between the shoulder joint and elbow joint in the anterior compartment. So once you remove this biceps brachii, you will be seeing another muscle which is present just below it, and that muscle will be called as brachialis. Here you can make out a muscle, and that muscle will be called as brachialis muscle, which is seen in the lower part of the arm. Biceps brachii, which is the anterior most muscle, and it is taking origin by means of 2 heads. So we are calling in that name. Now after removing this biceps brachii, you will see a muscle which is seen in the lower part of the arm region, and that muscle is called as brachialis muscle. So this muscle, it is taking origin from arm bone and then getting inserted into the forearm bone. About those details we will go later. Now you see another muscle also will be seen in the anterior compartment. So we have removed 2 muscles. Later you can get only 1 muscle seen in the anterior compartment, and that muscle is called as coracobrachialis. You can make out a thin muscle present here which is seen in the medialmost part anteromedially to the arm region, and that muscle will be called as coracobrachialis. Name itself it indicates. Coraco means from the coracoid process it is taking origin, and it is present in the brachium region or getting inserted in the brachium region. So we are calling with a name called coracobrachialis. So thus we will be having only these 3 muscles present in the anterior compartment of arm region. Those are, first we see in biceps brachii, then we have in the lower part brachialis, then in the medialmost part we have a muscle called coracobrachialis, and then we will be having some nerves passing through this, and those nerves in the anterior compartment are musculocutaneous nerve which is going to supply all these 3 muscles. Along with that we will be having another muscle nerve will be seen, and that nerve will be called as median nerve. So then we'll be having posterior compartment of arm region. So if you see posterior compartment of arm region, so in the posterior compartment you can make out clearly 1 muscle, that is covered by deltoid muscle, and that muscle is called as triceps brachii. So you can remove deltoid to see it clearly. So if we remove deltoid muscle and the other muscle seen in the scapular region, then it will be clear that you can make out the two heads of this muscle, such as one is lateral head and another one is we'll be having long head of triceps. So we'll be having long head of triceps along with lateral head, which is seen superficially in the posterior compartment. And once you remove this lateral head, we'll be seeing here they had removed the whole of the triceps muscle, but once you make out the lateral head dissection, you can see medial head also clearly. So altogether in triceps we have three heads, such as long head, medial and lateral head of triceps. So all these muscles are taking origin from different bones, that is, it is taking origin from scapula from three different areas, and then we will be having insertion happening in the bones present in forearm region. So that's all about the triceps muscle. Now you will be having some vessels and all passing, and about these vessels we will study detailing. Now you see we will be having an artery present here that we will call as brachial artery. So artery which is seen in the brachium region we are calling as brachial artery, and then we will be having nerve seen in the posterior side, that nerve we will call as radial nerve. So here what you will be seeing is radial nerve, and in the anterior compartment the nerve you will see is musculocutaneous nerve along with median nerve. About these details it is more than enough. Now we will move on to another same 3D image showing triceps clearly. So in this you can see triceps muscle clearly. So here you can see three heads. So this is deltoid muscle. So here what head you are seeing is long head. This is lateral head. Once you remove this lateral head, you can make out this medial head. So all these muscles are converging together and getting inserted into the bone present in the forearm region. So here you have to remember we have some structures submerged in this posterior compartment, and those structures are we will be having nerves and vessels present there. And here what we shown is only about muscles. So after removing triceps, what you are seeing is anterior compartment muscle, that is brachialis muscle, and here what you are seeing is biceps brachii, and above that you will be having a small muscle present there that we will call as coracobrachialis. So coracobrachialis and then biceps brachii along with in the lower part brachialis. So these are the four muscles which we are going to see detailing in this session, that is in the arm compartment. So now we can move on to the detailed description about arm region with muscles, vessels and nerves present in it. Now going into the introductory part, here what you are seeing is two bones, that is two view of humerus bone, that is right humerus is shown here. One is anterior view, another one is posterior view. So this is the anterior aspect and this is posterior aspect. You will identify this by means of keeping it in anatomical position, and here coronoid fossa seen in the lower end, it will indicate coronoid, and radial fossa in the lower end will indicate anterior surface, and only one fossa seen in the lower part posterior aspect, which we will call as olecranon fossa, that will be indicating posterior aspect. Another one more thing we have to remember is we will be having medially head directed, that is in anterior aspect, and if it is directed laterally, that will indicate it is posteriorly placed. So now we will get into the details of humerus. So humerus attached to the trunk by the pectoral girdle, and it is going to contribute for shoulder joint. The lower end is joined to the forearm bones such as radius and ulna, forming the elbow joint. And now going into the details of arm region, we will be having compartments of the arm such as anterior and posterior compartment. We will be having anterior compartment which we will call as flexor compartment also. So here we will be having flexors of the arm and forearm region, which is supplied by a nerve called musculocutaneous nerve. Musculocutaneous in the sense the nerve which is going to supply muscle in the upper part, and then after it is going to continue as cutaneous sensation for the lower part of the arm and forearm region. So we are calling that as musculocutaneous nerve. So now talking about posterior compartment, Here we will call that as extensor compartment, because we will be having extensors for the forearm region, and then we will be having supplied by these muscles which present in the extensor compartment are supplied by radial nerve. This thing you have to remember. Anterior compartment nerve supply is by musculocutaneous nerve, posterior compartment it is by radial nerve. Now going into the details of muscles. So muscles of the arm region are, as I said before, anterior compartment 3 muscles will be seen, and in posterior compartment 1 muscle will be seen. Anterior compartment muscles are biceps brachii, brachialis and coracobrachialis. Talking about posterior compartment, only one muscle will be seen, and that is triceps brachii. So here you can make out clearly, you can see biceps brachii and brachialis, and then we will be having coracobrachialis present here, deep to the biceps brachii, and posteriorly we will be having 3 heads of triceps. Talking about coracobrachialis. So coracobrachialis origin, name itself indicates it is taking origin from coracoid process of scapula, that is from the tip of the coracoid process of scapula, and inserting in the middle third of the medial border of humerus. Here you can make out clearly, this is humerus, in humerus middle 1/3. So middle third of the humerus giving insertion for the coracobrachialis muscle. So it is taking origin from coracoid process and then getting inserted into the brachium region. So we are calling this as coracobrachialis muscle. The action of this muscle is it is going to flex and then adduct the arm. And also an importance is seen in this coracobrachialis. This muscle is getting pierced by a nerve called musculocutaneous nerve, which this is a nerve which is going to supply whole of the anterior compartment of arm region, and this nerve is piercing this muscle called coracobrachialis, and which represent, this is a muscle which is going to represent medial compartment, which is not identified properly. You can keep in mind this is nothing but an adductor muscle which is not having a particular function here, but you can represent it as a medial compartment, and it is an important landmark. This is a coracobrachialis in a dissected cadaver. The point which we mark will be indicating coracobrachialis. So about biceps brachii, which is the second muscle which we are going to see in front of the arm region. So name itself it indicates biceps, in the sense you will be having 2 heads. So origin is taking from 2 heads, that is 2 parts of a bone, and then insertion is happening in the bone present in the forearm region. So now talking about biceps brachii, origin it is from by means of 2 heads. One is long head and another one is short head. Long head it is taking from supraglenoid tubercle, which is seen in the scapular region, lateral part of scapula. We will be having supraglenoid tubercle, that is giving origin for long head of biceps brachii. Then we will be having short head, which is taking origin from coracoid process. Before we had seen same coracoid process giving origin for another muscle called coracobrachialis. So coracoid process, it is giving origin for 2 muscles, one is coracobrachialis and another one is biceps brachii. So biceps brachii, short head, it is taking origin from coracoid process. Now talking about insertion, it is getting inserted into radial tuberosity of the radius bone. In the forearm region, we have 2 bones which is present laterally and medially. The lateral bone we will call as radius and the medial one we will call as ulna. So in the lateral bone, that is radius, we will be having a tuberosity called radial tuberosity, which is giving insertion for this particular muscle. And then it is also getting inserted by means of forming an aponeurosis called bicipital aponeurosis. So it is a thickened fascia-like appearance which is going to merge with deep fascia covering the forearm region. So insertion by means of 2 ways. By forming a tendon, it is getting inserted into radius, that is in radial tuberosity, and another by forming an aponeurosis, it is going to merge with deep fascia of the forearm region. And talking about the action of this muscle, it is a strong supinator. So you know what is supinator and what is pronator. Pronation and supination you have to remember like king's pronate and beggar's supinate. Pronate in the sense we are turning opposite to the anatomical position. So that part we will call as pronation. Opposite to pronation we will call as supination. So it is a strong supinator and is also a flexor of elbow and shoulder region. So two action you have to remember, one is strong supinator and then one is flexor of elbow and the shoulder region. And it also prevents upward displacement of head of the humerus. While doing more forcible movements, it is going to prevent the head of humerus dislocation. And now talking about the nerve supply, biceps brachii, it is supplied by again musculocutaneous nerve. Now talking about bicipital aponeurosis, the picture itself indicates, so this is biceps brachii muscle and the aponeurosis you are seeing with a marking here. So this is bicipital aponeurosis which is getting merged in the deep fascia of the forearm region. And this is bicipital aponeurosis to be clear. And about bicipital aponeurosis, it is going to separate vein from an artery. So vein present in the forearm region, that is near to the cubital fossa, we have a vein called median cubital vein. The vein which is going to connect two superficial veins such as basilic vein and cephalic vein. So that median cubital vein will be superficially placed, and deep to that we will be having this bicipital aponeurosis, and below this aponeurosis we will be having an artery called brachial artery. So this is the aponeurosis which is going to divide or separate the vein from artery region. Vein which is present superficially, artery is present in the deeper aspect. Now talking about the another muscle seen in the front of arm, that is brachialis muscle. So we had seen two muscles among three, one is coracobrachialis and biceps brachii. Now we are going to see the third muscle, that is brachialis. Name itself it indicates it is a muscle of arm region. Arm is otherwise known as brachium. Now talking about origin. So it is taking origin from the anterolateral and anteromedial aspect of the humerus bone. So in humerus we will be having two surfaces such as anteromedial and anterolateral. Those two surfaces in the lower part giving origin for this particular muscle. And then we will be having insertion happening in coronoid process of ulna and also in the ulnar tuberosity. We will talk about this later. Just to remember, we will be having medial side one bone present in the forearm we will call as ulna. In ulna we will be having these two special features such as coronoid process and also a tuberosity called ulnar tuberosity. So in these two regions we will be having insertion of this brachialis muscle. So origin, it is happening from the bone in arm region. Insertion is this going and inserting in the forearm bone, that is ulna, which is present medially. So origin from anterolateral and anteromedial surface of humerus, insertion in coronoid process of ulna and also in ulnar tuberosity. And this muscle, it is seen deep to biceps brachii, which is present, which is we seen already in 3D image. Now we will go on to action of this particular muscle. So it is going to flex the elbow joint in all positions. So it is a powerful flexor seen in the elbow joint, and also we will be having dual nerve supply for this brachialis muscle. So it is supplied by musculocutaneous nerve and also a nerve called radial nerve. So radial nerve here it acts as a proprioceptive sensation. So brachialis, it is a hybrid muscle because it is getting nerve supplied by two nerves. One is musculocutaneous, another one is radial nerve. Radial nerve is going to cause proprioceptive sensation. Now talking about posterior compartment muscle. So till now we had finished anterior compartment muscle, that is 3 in number. One is coracobrachialis, second is biceps brachii, and third one is brachialis. Now we are going to see posterior compartment muscle, which is 1 in number, and that is triceps. Here also it indicates it is taking origin by means of 3 heads, so we are calling this as triceps. So this triceps again we will be dividing into 3 heads. One is medial, lateral and long head. So origin of long head is from infraglenoid tubercle of the scapular region. Supraglenoid tubercle giving origin for long head of biceps, and infraglenoid it is giving origin for long head of triceps. So then we will be having lateral head taking origin from lateral lip of radial groove. In humerus we will be having a groove in the shaft region which is seen posteriorly, and that groove we will call as radial groove. That radial groove again will be having medial lip and lateral lip. In that lateral lip of this radial groove giving origin for lateral head of triceps muscle. And talking about medial head, it is taking origin from posterior surface of humerus below the radial groove region. So we will be having radial groove somewhat here. So below the radial groove we will be having surface of the or posterior surface of the humerus, which is giving origin for medial head of triceps. So altogether we have 3 heads for the origin of triceps. One is long head and lateral head, and this one is medial head. Here medial head will be present deep to these 2 heads, that is such as long and lateral head. Once you remove lateral head, you will come to make out the medial head clearly. Now talking about insertion, the insertion of triceps muscle altogether, it is going to form a single tendon, and then it is going to get inserted in the olecranon process of ulna. So it is also getting inserted into the medial side bone of the forearm region. So in the ulna, we will be having another important feature called olecranon process, which is seen in the posterior aspect. So this olecranon process, it is going to give insertion for this triceps muscle. Talking about its function, that is action, it is a chief extensor of forearm at the elbow joint. It is going to extend the elbow joint by making the forearm, the level of forearm region, and then we will be having long head, which is going to support head of humerus during abduction. So while making abduction action, long head of triceps is going to give support for the head of humerus region. And then this is the image. One is cadaveric view and another one is diagrammatic view. So in cadaveric view, you can make out, so we'll be having 2 heads such as lateral and medial head, which is cutted off, and here we'll be having medial head and this is lateral head. If we remove, we can make out the spiral groove or radial groove. In this radial groove, we'll be having a nerve called radial nerve, and then on artery you can make out that artery will be profunda brachii vessels, artery with vein. So here also you can make out that clearly. This is the spiral groove and this will be the origin of the medial head of triceps, and in the spiral groove only we will be having these 2 structures such as radial nerve and the profunda brachii vessels. And here in this image again, long head, lateral head, and lateral head is removed in the second picture, which is making clear of the medial head also. So 3 heads are visible in the second picture. One is long, another one is lateral, and another one is medial head. Now coming to the details of the artery present in the forearm region. The important artery you have to learn in the arm region is brachial artery. As the name indicates, it is the major artery present in the arm region, in the brachium region. So about brachial artery, this is an artery which is a continuation of axillary artery. So again, axillary artery is itself a continuation of subclavian artery, and this axillary artery is going to continue as brachial artery. Now talking about the extent of this brachial artery. The extent, it is starting from the lower margin of teres major. You all know from the axillary artery, it is ending up in the lower border of teres major. So from that level, there will be continuation as brachial artery. So commencement or starting point, it is from the lower margin of teres major muscle, and then it is continuing downwards in the ventral surface of the arm in the upper part until it reaches the cubital fossa at the elbow. So first it is present actually in the medial aspect. Later in the middle of the arm it is going to cross, and then in the lower part it is going to be present near to the cubital fossa region. It is related in the lateral part of the elbow joint, and it is terminating at the level of the neck of radius. You know the radius, it is a bone present in the lateral side of the forearm region, and near to the neck of this radius bone, it is going to divide into radial and ulnar arteries. So that's all about the course of brachial artery. Starting from lower margin of teres major, it is continuing downwards. In the upper part, it will be present medially. Later in the middle part, it is present anterior to the humerus. In the lower part, that is near to the cubital fossa region, it is related laterally. And then reaching the cubital fossa near to the neck of the radius, it is going to divide into 2 branches. One is radial artery and another one is ulnar artery. And now here in this image you can make out the artery clearly, brachial artery, which is present coming from the arm region, anterior compartment, arm region, going to cross from medial to lateral aspect. And then here in this image you can make out we will be having an aponeurosis covering the upper part of the terminal region of brachial artery. And here now we are going to see about the relations of this brachial artery. This artery, it is running downwards and laterally and from medial side of arm to the front of elbow, that you already know, and here it is going to be crossed by median. So you know brachial artery, it is crossing from medial to lateral aspect. In the same way, in the front middle of the arm, we will be having another nerve coming from the lateral aspect which is going to cross in the medial aspect. So we will be having crossing of this artery and nerve happening in the middle of the arm region. So in the middle part, we will be having crossing of median nerve above this brachial artery from lateral to medial side, and at the elbow it is covered by biceptal aponeurosis, and above the biceptal aponeurosis we will be having a vein called median cubital vein, the vein which is going to connect the basilic vein and cephalic vein. Now talking about the branches of brachial artery, we will be having 5 branches coming out from the brachial artery. So the first important branch what we are going to see is profunda brachii artery. We will be having a artery which we will call as profunda brachii. Profunda in the sense it indicates deep. Brachii in the sense it is going to supply the arm region. So we will be having an important branch coming from the brachial artery as profunda brachii artery. This is an artery which is going to accompany the radial nerve in the spiral groove which we seen before. So profunda brachii artery, then we will be having superior ulnar collateral artery which is going to accompany a nerve called ulnar nerve, and then we will be having inferior ulnar collateral artery, then we will be having nutrient artery, and then which is about nutrient artery you have to remember it is an artery which is going to supply the bone called humerus, and along with that we will be having some muscular branches to supply the arm region muscles, and then we will be having terminal branches to in number, that is radial artery and ulnar artery. So 5 important branches which you have to remember is profunda brachii artery, superior ulnar collateral artery, inferior ulnar collateral artery, then we will be having radial artery and ulnar artery as terminal branches. Along with that we will be having some muscular branches to supply the arm muscles, and then one nutrient artery to supply the bone present in the arm, that is humerus. And in this picture it is clear. So the artery which they shown as brachial artery which is crossing from medial aspect to the lateral aspect, and this brachial artery first branch it is giving us profunda brachii which is going posteriorly, then after reaching the lateral aspect, there it is giving some branches which we will deal later. Then we will be having medial aspect giving 2 branches, one is superior ulnar collateral and the one is below, that is inferior ulnar collateral, and near to the neck of the radius, somewhat here it will be seen. So near to the neck of the radius we will be having terminal branches of this brachial artery, that is one is medial branch ulnar artery and one is lateral branch, that is radial artery. Now we will talk about profunda brachii artery which is a branch of brachial artery itself. So profunda, as I said, it is a deep brachial artery and it is the largest branch coming from this brachial artery. It is going to accompany a nerve called radial nerve which is going to pass along the spiral groove or radial groove of humerus, and this profunda brachii artery again it is going to divide into 2 branches such as anterior and posterior descending branch, and after that it is going to take part in anastomosis around the elbow joint which we will deal later, and then we will be having other branches coming from profunda brachii artery, ascending branch, and then we will be having nutrient artery to humerus. So nutrient artery, a small branch will be given by profunda brachii that is also going to supply the humerus along with nutrient branch of brachial artery. Now going for applied aspect, we will be having brachial artery used for pulsation. So the pulse is palpable on the anterior aspect of the elbow region. As it is crossing from medial to lateral aspect, we can make out the pulsation clearly in the middle of the anterior aspect of elbow, and then we will be used for measuring the blood pressure with a stethoscope and BP apparatus. So for measuring the blood pressure also it is very helpful. Now going for veins present in the arm region. So here you can make out some veins such as basilic and cephalic vein. So cephalic vein, it is present in the lateral aspect, and basilic vein it is present in the medial aspect, and both the veins are connected by a vein called median cubital vein which is present in the cubital fossa region, and then we will be having some connection of all these veins present in the hand region. Then So this is the image. So where we will be having in arm region alone we will cover now. So this is arm region. We will be having cephalic vein, basilic vein, which is going to continue as axillary vein, and this basilic vein along with venae commitans on either side of the brachial artery going to join, and then it is going to form the axillary vein. This thing you have to remember, these veins are nothing but venae commitans along the way of brachial artery, which is going to join with a vein called basilic vein. Then after these three veins together joining an important vein called axillary vein. So that's all about the venous system present in the arm region. So we are dividing into superficial veins and deep veins. Superficial veins are cephalic vein and basilic vein, and deep veins are the veins which is going to accompany the brachial artery. So the color differentiation shown here is indicating that this sky blue color is for superficial and this dark blue or deep blue is for deep veins. And now going for the details of nerves. So nerves, branches of the brachial plexus are musculocutaneous nerve, median nerve, ulnar nerve and radial nerve. And the musculocutaneous nerve is the major nerve going to supply the arm region muscles. So name itself indicates it is going to supply the muscle first, then after it is going to continue as sensory nerve, which is going to supply the skin of the particular area. So we are calling this as musculocutaneous nerve. It is an important nerve of the arm, and it is a branch from the lateral cord of the brachial plexus. You know, we have lateral cord with 3 branches, and we will remember that with a mnemonic called LML, and in that M is going to indicate this nerve called musculocutaneous nerve, and it is arising at the lower border of the pectoralis minor muscle, and then the root value of this musculocutaneous nerve is anteroposterior rami of C5, C6 and C7 spinal nerve. Now talking about the course of this particular nerve, in axilla, we are dividing into 5 regions, that is in axilla, arm, forearm and hand region, that we will deal later. Now we will be thorough with arm region. So in axilla, it is present lateral to the third part of the axillary artery. If you are thorough with axillary artery, it is very easier for you to understand. So in axilla, it is related lateral to the third part of the axillary artery. As you know, axillary artery we have 3 parts. Then after it is going to enter the arm region. In arm region it enters by piercing a muscle called coracobrachialis. Then after it runs downwards and then laterally between the biceps and brachialis muscle. It runs downwards and laterally between biceps and brachialis muscle, and then it is related lateral to the tendon of biceps. After piercing the deep fascia above the elbow, and then it is going to become lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm region. So in the arm region it is acting as a muscular branch, and in the forearm region it is going to supply the skin. So we are calling it as musculocutaneous nerve. In axilla, I will repeat it, in axilla it is present lateral to the third part of axillary artery, reaching the arm region where it is piercing a muscle called coracobrachialis. Then after it is running downwards and then laterally between 2 muscles called biceps and brachialis, and then it is going to reach lateral to the tendon of biceps. After that it is piercing the deep fascia above the elbow, and then it is going to become as lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. Now talking about branches of musculocutaneous nerve. So talking about the branches of musculocutaneous nerve, in this image you can make out the musculocutaneous nerve clearly. So this is the musculocutaneous nerve which is piercing the muscle called coracobrachialis. Then after it is supplying biceps and brachialis, and by piercing only it is going to supply coracobrachialis also. Then after, in this image you can make out clearly, so musculocutaneous nerve, it is going to pierce and come. So this is the musculocutaneous nerve, it is piercing the coracobrachialis muscle. Then talking about the branches. So here what you are seeing is, it is going to form a lateral cutaneous nerve. So this is a nerve which is going, musculocutaneous nerve in forearm region, it is going to be a cutaneous nerve, and we are calling this with a special name called lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. So talking about branches, so it is giving muscular branches such as for biceps brachii, brachialis and coracobrachialis, and then it is giving cutaneous sensation in the forearm region where we will call as lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. And it is also giving some articular branches to joints such as elbow joint, and also some branches will be given to humerus also. Now talking about another nerve which is seen in this arm region, that is median nerve, which is a very important nerve to remember. So about median nerve, you already know we will be having two roots joining together to form this median nerve. So here you can make out lateral and medial. Okay, so we'll be having lateral and medial root together. It is going to form a single nerve called median nerve, and this median nerve, how it is going to pass, we are going to see detailedly. So this is the median nerve which you are seeing in the medial aspect of musculocutaneous nerve. And now talking about median nerve, it is closely related to brachial artery, and it is crossing the artery from the lateral to medial side, and then it is having branches in arms such as pronata teres, vascular branches to brachial artery, and articular branches to elbow. These are the important things you have to remember in arm region of median nerve. And now talking about ulnar nerve, we will be having ulnar nerve medial to brachial artery here in the upper part, and at the insertion of coracobrachialis, it is going to pierce medial intermuscular septum and reaches the posterior compartment of arm region, and later again it is accompanied by superior ulnar collateral vessels, and reaching the lower part, that is at the elbow region, it passes behind medial epicondyle of humerus. So near to the medial epicondyle posterior aspect, if you palpate, you can make out this nerve clearly, that is ulnar nerve. So I will repeat it again. First, in the upper part, it is related medial to brachial artery. Then after near to the insertion of coracobrachialis muscle, that is middle of the arm region, it is going to pierce the medial intermuscular septum and it is going to reach posterior aspect. Later, it is accompanied by superior ulnar collateral vessels, and reaching the elbow region, it passes behind medial epicondyle of humerus, and there you can palpate this nerve clearly. Now going to details of radial nerve. This is a thicker nerve present in coming from the brachial plexus, which is seen in the posterior aspect. So here, first in the axilla region, it is seen posterior to axillary artery. Then after, it leaves the axilla by the lower triangular space and enters the posterior compartment of arm. These details we had seen before only. You remember those? First, it is related in the axilla region posterior to the axillary artery. Later, it is leaving the axilla by reaching the lower triangular space. Later, it will reach the posterior compartment of arm region. There it is accompanied by profunda brachii vessels. After that, it is going to pass through the radial groove or spiral groove, and reaching the lower part of arm, it is piercing the lateral intermuscular septum. Later, it enters the front of the arm, and after that, it passes between the brachialis and brachioradialis. And then here you can make out the image clearly. So this is the radial nerve, what you are seeing, so which is going in the posterior aspect. So this is radial nerve, can make out clearly. So this is radial nerve, and this is profunda brachii vessel coming from the brachial artery. Both these structures are going together. In this cadaveric view also you can see clearly profunda brachii, radial nerve, which is going to pass through the radial groove. And in this image you can see spiral groove area. So there, from anterior to posterior, in first image you can see from anterior to posterior how it is going. So in the posterior aspect you can make out the spiral groove where triceps is removed. Then you can make out the spiral groove where we will be having this nerve and the artery. So this is radial nerve and this is the artery, profunda brachii artery, passing together. So after reaching the elbow region, it is giving some branch, and here you can make out a posterior interosseous nerve, which is a branch coming from this radial nerve. And so we will be having superficial branch and deep branch divided by this radial nerve trunk, and superficial branch of radial nerve coming in the anterior aspect. Posterior aspect will be having this posterior interosseous nerve. In this image also it is clear, this is the radial nerve, this is the superficial branch, and this will be called as deep branch or posterior interosseous nerve. And above the radial nerve branches in arm region, as you already know, above the radial groove, it is going to supply long and lateral head of triceps, and then it is going to give some cutaneous sensation for posterior compartment of arm. So we are calling that as posterior cutaneous nerve of arm region also. So we will be having one branch for long head and one for lateral head of the triceps muscle. Along with that, one cutaneous branch will be given, that is called posterior cutaneous nerve of arm. So it is happening above the radial groove. After reaching the radial groove, there it is giving branches for medial and lateral head of triceps, and also for anconeus muscle, and also two cutaneous branches will be given. One is lower lateral cutaneous nerve of arm, and another one is posterior cutaneous nerve of forearm region. So then we will be having another set of branches arising from lower part of the radial groove, that is giving branches to brachialis, brachioradialis, extensor carpi radialis longus, and also for joints such as elbow joint, which we will call as articular branch. So we will be dividing the radial nerve branches into three parts, that is above the radial groove, in the radial groove, and below the radial groove. So these all about the details of radial nerve supplying the posterior compartment of arm region. So now in this we can make out the 3D orientation of artery and vessels present in the arm region. So here what you are seeing is upper limb part with the muscles covering all the important structures. So now we will dissect all the structures to make out those important artery and vessels clearly. So here first you have to remove this biceps brachii. As you already know, this is biceps brachii which we remove now, so which will be having two tendons by which it is taking origin, and then you can make out some structures present here. So those structures can be seen clearly after removing the biceps brachii. So we have to see important structures seen in the arm. So for that we have to make out only brachial artery and median nerve along with musculocutaneous nerve on the whole. So first we will remove all the other important unimportant structures present here. So we have removed the lymphatic vessels and veins present here. So we are removing all the veins and the lymphatic vessels which are not necessary for now. Now we will make out some structures which is very important to make out the brachial artery and the nerves. So here what you are seeing is the red colored vessel. Red color structure what you are seeing here is brachial artery. So here if you are making out, this artery is nothing but brachial artery. The relation you can make out clearly from axilla. It is passing towards the middle of the arm, then after it is reaching the lower part, that is in front of elbow joint. So here first it is present medially in the axilla region. Here you can make out this is axilla and this is the medial part. In medial part we have this brachial artery. Later it is passing and crossing the middle of the arm region, and then in the elbow joint and front of the elbow joint it is related laterally. And here if you remove the bicipital aponeurosis which you are seeing here and the small veins which are present, you can make out some muscles also seen here. So here if you remove all those muscles, you can make out bones present here. So here near to the bones we will be having this bifurcation or termination of the brachial artery present. So we are going to see the termination of brachial artery, how it is dividing into two. So brachial artery, as you already know, it is dividing into two and then it is getting terminated, and those vessels are, so here you can make out some vessels present. So nothing but, so this is the artery, one branch of brachial artery, and that artery is nothing but medial side we will call as ulnar artery, and this is radial side, so we are calling this as radial artery. And here we will be having another artery present, and that artery will be called as ulnar artery. So bifurcation of brachial artery will be happening here. One is ulnar artery and the one is medial artery. So this is the whole of brachial arteries divisions. Now we will be having nerve which is passing near to this brachial artery. So this nerve, if you see here, before that we can remove this muscle also, that is coracobrachialis. In the upper part we will be having a muscle called coracobrachialis. If you remove coracobrachialis, it is much clear for you to see the structures clearly. So after removing deltoid also, it is very much nice to view the structures properly. So now we will see about median nerve. So this is the whole of median nerve, right? So we have median nerve present here. So this is median nerve. So if you are seeing median nerve, you can make out it is present first in the lateral aspect of the brachial artery. So here if you are seeing, you can make out median nerve which is present lateral to brachial artery. Then after in the middle it is crossing, and from it is going behind the brachial artery and reaching the medial aspect. So in the lower part of the arm it is all over present in the medial aspect of the brachial artery, and then it is going to reach the anterior aspect of elbow joint. So these are the two important structures you have to remember in arm region. One is brachial artery and another one is median nerve. And here you can make out another nerve which is going here. Okay, so this nerve is nothing but musculocutaneous nerve. You know, we have removed now coracobrachialis, and that muscle is pierced by this nerve called musculocutaneous nerve. So this is coracobrachialis muscle. This muscle is pierced by this musculocutaneous nerve. So after removing this coracobrachialis, you can make out clearly, and that nerve is musculocutaneous nerve, which is going to supply the muscles of the arm region. Later it is converging below, and then in forearm region it is going to continue as lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm. So this is the lateral cutaneous nerve of forearm, which is a continuation of this musculocutaneous nerve. These are the details you have to remember. So in the arm region, the important vessel what we are going to see is brachial artery, and the important nerves we are going to see is median nerve and musculocutaneous nerve. These are the important structures you have to see and understand in better way to understand the arm region. So now we can see the diagrammatic representation of brachial artery. So brachial artery, as you already know, it is a continuation of axillary artery. So we have axillary artery coming from the axillar region, and it is going to reach the teres major muscles lower border. So this muscle this artery we will call as axillary artery till the lower border of teres major muscle. Then after it is reaching the lower border of teres major, we will call that same artery as brachial artery, because it is going to be related to the arm region. So this is brachial artery which is coming from the lower border of teres major. Then after this brachial artery reaching the middle of the arm or middle of the humerus region, there it is going to cross from medial to lateral aspect. After crossing from medial to lateral aspect, then after it is going to reach in front of the elbow joint. After reaching the elbow joint, it is going to relate to the forearm bones such as radius, so which is a lateral bone, and near to the neck of the radius it is going to divide into two branches, and those are called as terminal branches. And that branch is nothing but again will be called with the same name of the bones present, that is, one will be called as medial artery, that is ulnar artery. So the artery which is present medially we will call as ulnar artery. Same way we will be having another artery which is present laterally, and that artery will be called as radial artery. So these are the two branches of the brachial artery. So on the whole, this is called as brachial artery. So this is the brachial artery. And here you have to remember the origin, it is a continuation of axillary artery from the lower border of teres major. So this will be called as axillary artery. Then after the extent or the course, it is reaching the upper part medially. Then after in the middle part of the arm, it is crossing from medial to lateral side. In the lower part of the arm, that is in front of elbow joint, it is present laterally. Here we will be having one important area called cubital fossa, where it is related laterally. Then after reaching the neck of the radius here, it is going to divide into two branches. One is medial branch that we will call as ulnar artery, another one lateral branch we will call as radial artery. The other more branches other than radial artery and ulnar artery are, one branch it is coming from the brachial artery, and it is the first branch to arise, and that branch we will call as profunda brachii artery. So this profunda brachii artery, it is going to go posterior to the humerus. Then after it is going to reach the lateral aspect. So this artery will be called as profunda brachii artery. About the details of profunda brachii I will teach you later. Now you remember we will be having profunda brachii artery. It is the branch coming from brachial artery. Then after we will be having other branches such as from the medial aspect. So this is the medial aspect of brachial artery. In medial aspect we will be having superior ulnar collateral artery. So we will be having superior ulnar collateral artery, and then we will be having inferior ulnar collateral artery. So these are the two branches arising from the medial aspect of brachial artery. One is above, so we are calling as superior ulnar collateral artery. Another one is below, we will call as inferior ulnar collateral artery. So altogether important branches are, one is profunda brachial artery, another one is superior ulnar collateral, then we have inferior ulnar collateral, and two terminal branches are laterally radial artery and medially ulnar artery. And other than that, we will be having arm surrounded by muscles such as 4 in number, anteriorly 3 and posteriorly 1 muscle. All these muscles are supplied by muscular branches given by this brachial artery, and the bone itself, it is supplied by nutrient artery given by the brachial artery. So we'll be having, these are the branches of brachial artery which you have to remember. This is a simple diagrammatic view for remembering the brachial artery in a better way.